Morning, everybody. It's Wednesday here in Rapid City, South Dakota, in my palatial estate here in Rapid City. This is my buddy, Sean. He does canvassing just like me. He works for a living. And when he's not canvassing, he can paint, right? You can paint. You can swing a mean hammer.
I can do things with my hands that most men can't.
He's the man. But we're not talking about Sean today. We're not talking about Tony. We're talking about the void. T-H-E-V-O-I-D. Now, what is the void? The first time I heard of the void was when I was younger than this guy. I was in my teens, and I was reading a book by this guy named Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre won the Nobel Peace Prize for Literature in somewhere in the 60s to the 70s. And he was the father of the modern existentialist movement. And he wrote a book, and he was talking about this dude, and I think he was quoting John Dos Passos, another writer. And he was talking about this dude was sitting there writing and living his life, and all of a sudden, they said something appeared, and evidently the guy got shot, and that was the end of the book. And that was my first glimpse into nothingness, or the void. And that's what this guy dealt with, was the void and the nothingness. Okay, the next people that dealt with this, and I don't know if it was right around the same time, are the Buddhists. The Buddhists do that. They do this thing where you sit there and you sit in the dark, and I read a book about it called, this guy from Holland went over to the Buddhist temple, and he went to a temple in Japan, and it was a book called The Empty Mirror. And this guy would sit around, and they would wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he would sit there and meditate, and he would meditate for hours. And if he fell asleep, they slapped him on the back with a board. And he stayed there for months and months, and he had some sort of enlightenment, and he grew up, went back to Holland, and wrote detective novels, which were pretty interesting. That was my second encounter with the void. My third encounter was all the way into the 2000s. About in 2008, I was watching a movie or a documentary by this guy named Adam Curtis called The Century of the Self. And they were dealing with this guy named Earnhardt who did S training. This Earnhardt guy was very interesting. And he said that what you have to do is accept nothingness. And then when you accept nothingness, it's no longer nothing, and you can fill it with whatever you want to, and you can do whatever you want to with your life. So that's what this guy said. He was basically saying, if you touch nothingness and you embrace nothingness, you can make something out of it. This was Earnhardt, EST, very interesting thinker. He has some interviews with Buckminster Fuller. He was a tremendous thinker, very controversial. This S training is very controversial, and the Adam Smith Century of the Self video I have in my collection. It has about 500 views. So what have I said? We've discussed nothing. Okay, that's what we've been talking about here, nothing. We've been talking nothing all day. We started with Jean-Paul Sartre, French existentialism. Then we went into Buddhism, and then we went into modern 70s pop culture with this S training. So that's all we did. And I just want you to know, to quote Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman said, sometimes nothing can be a really cool hand. Peace out.